Thank you, Elliot. Good morning, everyone. It's such a blessing for me to be here, to see all of you back home. And I'm sorry my family's not with me. They all send their welcomes and hellos from Texas. And I just want to echo before I start what Pastor Tim said about the Great Caring Network. In a lot of ways, I'm blessed that I get to be an eyewitness to the life-changing impact this church has, not just here locally, but around the world, in Honduras and in Kenya. There are so many, countless number of children, orphan, vulnerable families that found hope, found faith, found an opportunity for a better future because of your generosity, your support, and your commitment. I remember a couple years ago, we went on a mission trip to Kenya, which is the church, and when we debriefed afterward, we went to 2 different places, and one of our biggest takeaways was we need clean water for these places. There's a slum, over 1 million, I think at that time there was 750,000 people in the slum, no access to clean water. We're in this community out in the middle of nowhere, no access to clean water. And how can we provide clean water? And then last year at the auction, we raised enough money to build one of the wells in the middle of the slum that was providing water for over 50,000 people have access to clean water now. That's such a blessing in the middle of Nairobi. And then in addition to that, some other people from the church and other places got together and said, we're going to put in a water well in Bungoma. And they put it in there too. So just like Pastor Tim said, within a year, we had 2 water wells up and running. It was a year and a half, year and a half. We had 2 water wells up and running that are just providing such a blessing to so many people. And again, you're probably never going to meet these people or see them, but on their behalf, I'm just saying thank you. Thank you for sacrificing. Thank you for your commitment. It's hard, it's challenging. And as we're going to see today as we open the scriptures, this is the life God's calling us to be a part of, is walking into these dark places, shining God's light. So thank you so much. And like I said, my family couldn't be here, but I want to tell you about an experience we had to open up the message this last year. This last year, for the first time as a family, we had the privilege of going to Disneyland. It was our first time. And I'm going to show you a video here in a second, but this video cost me a lot. I had to bribe my son for permission to show it. The negotiations did not go well. It cost me a pair of shoes. I had to buy them. But he gave me permission to show the video finally, so I got permission. So for months, we had been planning this. Leading up to it, they had no idea. So what we did was, we packed. We had the suitcases in the car. We walked to school every morning. I walked into school. And that day I said, we're running late, so let's just get in the car. I'll give you a ride. And Mom's car is not working, so I'll give her a ride too. And then after 10 minutes, they realized we're not driving to school, but they say, hey, what's going on? And we had 2 shoe boxes full of clues and toys from Disneyland and Universal that they were going to look at. And it's really confusing for them. They've never done something like this. So this is the reaction video I'm going to show you guys.
Okay.
The box is going to tell you guys where we're going, okay? When I count to 3, I'm like, you guys can open it. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Yay!
Okay. Where are we going?
What is Gryffindor? Brave?
Isabella, where do you think we're going?
Hogwarts? I don't know.
Look at what's in Isabella's box.
Disney something?
Yay!
Like
Disneyland's
at no, wait,
I
that's so
finally got a
expensive.
clown and he slapped wristbands.
I don't know. Gryffindor?
I got a little Minnie Mouse stuffed animal.
Like I know.
So where do you guys think we're going?
I don't know, Disneyland?
No, that's too. No, not now. No.
Lighthouse, I see lighthouse.
Studio.
Hey, Elijah. Isabella guessed right.
What?
Isabella, tell Elijah what you guessed where we're going.
Disneyland.
And
Hogwarts.
which is at Universal Studios.
Universal. We're literally going.
Yes!
No way!
Yay! It's
No way. I don't believe you.
We are.
Open this.
I don't believe
Look in the back. Look at the back of our truck. See what's back there.
I don't believe you.
I can only see so good. I really want to.
I don't believe you.
Disneyland and Universal Studios.
I don't believe
Surprise!
Yeah.
We're on the way to the airport.
Right.
No way.
You're not going to school today.
Are you excited, Beita?
Yeah.
We got to go over Sarai and our nephews and cousins, and it was a blast. It was so much fun. We had another surprise because they didn't know they were going to show up, and when they showed up, he got emotional again and started crying. It was just overwhelming, and it was awesome, right? They say Disney is like the happiest place on earth. So for Isabella to see the princesses and meet them, eat cotton candy and eat all this different junk food, for Elijah to go on the roller coasters, just so much fun, hanging out with the cousins and everything. But as great as it was, if you've gone to Disneyland, you know it's also a very hard, tough place to be as well. I mean, it is the happiest place on earth, but basically you're going from one line to another line to another line to another line. It's really hot outside. And then, you know, I understand waiting in line. You wait in line for 2 hours, you ride for 2 minutes, and it makes sense. Logically. It does not make sense for a 5-year-old. It doesn't make sense for a 3-year-old or a baby. We had 6 kids total with us, and it was just hard, right? They don't want to wait in line. They're complaining. And, you know, it's at the same time, they're hungry, so we're like, okay, let's go get some food. You gotta wait in line to get food. Okay, let's get some dessert. You gotta wait in another line. And it's just one long line, and then, you know, there's so many people today, it's sunrise or sunset, right? People climb mountains and wake up early just to see the sunrise or sunset. And what is a sunrise or a sunset? It's an intersection, right? The intersection of light and darkness meeting together. And that's what creates these beautiful, epic sights for us to see, right? Think about other places in nature. There's when fresh water of the river meets the salt water of the sea, and two different types of water are meeting. They're called estuaries. And again, they're one of the most beautiful places in all of nature. When these two places meet, you can see the just nature's blossoming and growing, and people travel all around the world just to see these phenomena, right? And it's opposites kind of meeting, and that intersection is where you find life. And this last year, I read the biography of Hamilton, and I had the privilege of watching the show, so I've been obsessed with Hamilton. And when I'm reading that, it was so interesting to see Hamilton and Burr, and spoiler alert, I mean, you should know by now, but Hamilton dies in a duel with Aaron Burr, and, you know, they're opposite ends of the spectrum, and they kind of enemies, but even leading up to that, throughout it, even though they were opposite, oftentimes enemies, they accomplished some of the greatest things, not just Hamilton and Burr, but the founding fathers. Despite their differences, they came together, and in that intersection, they wrote the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Federalist Papers, and they were able to, you know, develop democracy as we know it today. And again, it's beautiful because it's two people who end up killing the other person, but together in that intersection, they accomplished so much, right? Think about your family or family in general. You know, family, the way God designed it, was supposed to be a place that's a safe haven. It's a source of support, of encouragement, where you can find affirmation and people can love on you, and you can feel safe and secure and have healthy attachment, and then go on to become independent in your life. But in a lot of our cases, that wasn't the case, right? Family wasn't a safe haven. Instead, it was a place of challenges and fighting and anger and maybe hatred, and that, you know, deep failure. Maybe it sets you up with insecurities and attachment issues and all sorts of stuff. So some of the people in our families we dearly love, and I bet there's people maybe you don't even talk to anymore. And what is that? Family is this intersection of both the best and often the people who make us the angriest or the worst, right? And just think about our work around the world, right? In the two countries, in Honduras and Kenya, I mean, they are some of the two most incredible countries. You can see wildlife there, or the mountains and volcanoes that you can't see anywhere else on planet Earth. At the same time, you know, Kenya's impoverished and been decimated by poverty and HIV, and they have these slums where they go on for miles and miles and miles, and hundreds of thousands of people living, barely surviving there, right? And in Honduras, we have one of the most dangerous countries in the world where gangs are just, again, decimating the country. But at the same time, you have some of the most beautiful people there, and God's work there in these programs is providing hope. So these programs are the intersection of darkness and light, of light meeting darkness. And I think these places of intersection, where on one side you have pain and anguish, on the other side you have tenderness and mercy. You have the worst and the best. You have light and you have darkness. And I think as Christians, our calling is to walk into these places. Our calling is to live in and embrace these intersections. And as we follow Jesus, He invites us into this intersection. And one of the options we have is to go to one end or the other. And we can't go to the dark side and just walk away from God. That's obviously not His plan. But if we just go to the side of joy and happiness and the best, and we never confront darkness, then we're living lives that are lives of comfort and self-service, but really not accomplishing much. And we can't go to one end. I mean, are you never going to go on a family vacation because you're going to fight and have conflict? No, of course not. As challenging as it was to have that Disney vacation, we're planning the next one now because it was so exciting and incredible to spend that time with the kids, right? Are you never going to love another person because they might betray you or hurt you or stab you in the back? No, of course not. The risk is worth it because you're there in that intersection, right? So if we follow Jesus, He's going to invite us into a place of intersection where beauty and brokenness collide. And those are the places we're often most alive. And look at the life of Jesus. He embodied this intersection. His entire life, the Gospels of John, any of the Gospels you read, you're going to see Jesus embodying this and living it out. And everywhere He went, His life, His ministry, what He did on a daily basis, who He talked with, all of that shows light meeting darkness, light intersecting with darkness. And John, who wrote the Gospel of John, tells that story and says, Jesus is the light of the world. That's one of the analogies he paints for Jesus, that He is the light of the world, bringing lightness into a dark world. And then later He would write this letter that we're studying now. And that's what I want to look at. 1 John chapter 2. I'm going to look at 5 verses 6 through 11. And what we're going to see is that John, who followed Jesus, is going to point out to the type of life Jesus lived. And he's going to call us as followers to emulate Jesus, to follow His example. So if you have a Bible, you can follow along. It's 1 John chapter 2, verses 6 and 11. Here's what John says. Those who say they live in God, should live their lives as Jesus did. Those who say they live in God, those who say, I'm going to follow Jesus, I'm about God, I put my trust in Him, they should live their lives as Jesus did. And again, just look at how Jesus lived His life. He loved everyone, sinners and tax collectors, religious people and prostitutes, thieves and politicians, everyone in between, the whole spectrum. He loved everyone. And He would see sin at its worst, where it was the most brutal and raw, and He would provide grace that was overwhelming and refreshing. He would walk into places that were disease and sickness were running rampant. He would provide healing, hope, and restoration, and touch the sick. He would go to people who were powerless and marginalized, who had no voice, and He would walk alongside them and empower them and give them a voice. To children that were often ignored and neglected, abused in that society, He would say, no, let the children come to me and put His hands on them and bless them, give them value, give them meaning and purpose. And that's what He did. He went everywhere there was darkness, and He would shine bright His light there. And that's what He did. And that's our calling. That's what John says. Those who say they live in God should live their lives as Jesus did. And Jesus walked in the intersection. So how do we do that? How do we do that in the real world? In your life today, around the world, how can we do that today? In verse 7 and 8 tell us how. He says, dear friends, I'm not writing a new commandment for you. Rather, it is an old one you have heard from the very beginning. This old commandment, to love one another. To love one another is the same message you heard before, yet it is also new. Jesus lived the truth of this commandment, and you are living it. For darkness is disappearing, and the true light is already shining. It's simple. It's an old commandment. It's a new commandment. And despite having heard it, and all of you have heard it, it's new to us every single day because it's a challenge for us every single day. It's to love one another. And that goes against the grain. It's so counterintuitive to love one another. John could have wrote a million things there. He could have said, correct one another, or criticize one another, or judge one another, or anything one another, but he didn't. He said, this is at the core of who we are. To love one another. To love one another. And love does the unexpected. Love surprises. Love shocks. Love does the unexpected. This last week, which was Mother's Day, right? Yeah, Mother's Day was last week. Elise and I and the two kids, we asked Elise what she wants to do for Mother's Day. She wanted to go to Arboretum. And Arboretum in Texas is like this big park with flowers, and that's pretty much it, flowers. That's our So it's not really exciting for me or the two kids, but it's Mother's Day, and on Mother's Day, that's what she wants to do. So you do it. So we go there, and we're hanging out, walking, and we're eating lunch there, and we're all sitting at a table, and Elijah is hyper, so he's getting up and he's walking around, and he walks next to a bush, and I see a snake come out of the bush and towards Elijah. And Elise saw it too. We saw it at the same time. And immediately, both of us got up. And Elise actually beat me to the punch. She got up faster and jumped up in front of Elijah, between Elijah and the snake. And then I was there like a split second afterwards, right? And I'm a little bit faster than Elise in general, but in that moment, the reason she was a little bit faster, I think it kind of explains the difference between moms and dads. Because the mom, when she saw the danger, she didn't think, there was no reason, no rationale, even though she's DNA hardwired for survival of the fittest and instinct and self-preservation, she went against all of that and sacrificed and put herself before the snake. I did the same thing, but there was a slight delay. And in that delay, I had a bunch of thoughts go through my mind. Like my first thought was, I told Elijah to sit down at the table, and he had to get up, and now he has to go fight a snake. And then I also thought, I didn't want to come to Arboretum, and we're here for Mother's Day. Why do we have to do this? And then I also thought, Elijah's pretty fast. He could probably beat that snake if it comes down to it. And then I'm also thinking, okay, what hospital's nearby in case he's not that fast? And again, all this is happening split second, right? And that's why she beat me by like 0.2 to 1 second or whatever. But when I was thinking about the afterwards, Elise is terrified of like ladybugs and butterflies, things that are not dangerous. Spiders and snakes are like mortifying to her. So the fact that she would jump in front of a snake, that's what love does though, right? Love does the unexpected. Love doesn't need reason or rationale or explanation or anything. Love just runs in, and love sacrifices. And love doesn't count the cost. And love is unconditional. And love is beautiful and precious. And when you see it in action, it's the most powerful force in the world. And I always felt that as Christians, that if we could just get this part right, to love one another, nothing else really matters. We could just love one another and make that core to who we are, and make love do the unexpected. But it's hard. It's not what we do. In verse 9, he would say that human nature is to actually go the other way. In verse 9, he says, if anyone claims I'm living in the light but hates a fellow believer, that person is still in darkness. Anyone who loves a fellow believer is living in the light and does not cause others to stumble. But anyone who hates a fellow believer is still living and walking in darkness. And such a person does not know the way to go, having been blinded by darkness. I think there's something in us that It's easier to like and love people who agree with us, who look like us and talk like us and believe like us and vote like us and everything like us. And that's easy, and that's normal, and that's what, kind of our society is pushing us towards. Animosity and separation and dislike. But as Christians, that's not what we stand for. As Christians, what matters more than any of that is to be people of love. And darkness blinds us. It confuses us. It provides confirmation bias. It makes it think like you're right and you're wrong. And that brings out darkness and doesn't allow light to shine. And Jesus says that doesn't change the world. That doesn't produce the result we want. Love at the intersection. Darkness blinds us and confuses us, but love provides clarity and vision. And when you love people that disagree with you, when you love people that don't look like you, when you love people that mock you and hurt you, and we love them, we do it because love does the unexpected. And that's the bottom line. Love does the unexpected. As followers of Jesus, we love the unexpected. We welcome the unexpected. We serve the unexpected. We hang out with the unexpected. We help the unexpected. We provide hospitality for the unexpected. And that's how we shine the light in this dark world. Well, the world looks at us and says, why are they doing that? That doesn't make sense. Why would they love us when we're treating them that way? And they can't figure this out. It's easy to love people who are easy to love, obviously. But what about people that are difficult to love? How do you love the bad neighbor? The neighbor that doesn't cut the grass or, leaves stuff out in their yard or puts their car in front of your car. How do you love that person? How do you love that family member that's difficult to love, right? It's easy to love your in-laws when they're Tim and Jackie. They're incredible. What about your in-laws? They're not your in-laws, but the other family members that are hard to love, that are difficult, that it's hard for you to call them or text them, and you're thinking, do we really want to invite them to Thanksgiving? Can't we just say the email got lost in the Facebook or something? There's people in your family that are hard to love, and how do you love them? How do you love, refugees or immigrants, or how do you love people who vote on the other side, or people who are parts of community that not your community, the LGBTQ community? How do you love people of different religions? If we're people of faith and love is supposed to define us, what does it look like to love these people? Because following Jesus means falling to places that are broken, places of intersection, and shining His light. And John himself is the one who wrote, "For God so loved the world." And there was no exception to that. He loved the world except for this group He didn't love. God loved everyone. So, how do we love the unexpected? If love does the unexpected, what are we supposed to do with that? And I'm going to challenge you in two levels. I'm going to challenge you personally in your life, and I'm going to challenge you to do something globally. So personally, in your own life, how can you love the unexpected? So I want you to just think about, is there a person in your life? Is there a group in your sphere? Is there a person, a group, or a community that is difficult to love? And if it's so, what would it look like to love that person? If it's that family member that you haven't talked to in a while, what would it look like to love them? What would people who are not expecting to receive love from your end, what would it look like to love them and to blow out their expectations so it doesn't make sense to them, right? I think back to 2015, a 20-year-old man walked into a black church in Charleston and killed 9 people. And then when he was in his first public hearing, the daughter of one of the victims said on TV in front of everybody, "I forgive you. You took something very precious from me, and I will never talk to you again, but I forgive you." That shocked the nation. I know that's an extreme. I know that's out there, but that was unexpected. You don't love people who kill your family members, but that's what love does. Love does the unexpected. So I don't want you to do something that drastic, but something small. What's one step? Can you make a phone call? Can you text someone? Can you email them? Can you go ahead and invite them to Thanksgiving or Memorial Day barbecue, whatever's coming up next? Start hang out with them. What's that one step look like for you to take that first step to loving that person? Because that's what love does. Love does the unexpected. How do we love them? How can we serve them? How can we accept them? And then globally, I'm going to challenge us to continue shining brightest for the world's darkness. Our church has been working in Honduras for years, and Kenya just recently. And, lots of times, like I mentioned, I see the effects of sin on the lives of these children every single day. Innocent children who are abused and neglected, they're trafficked, they're starving and dying of preventable diseases, orphaned by violence and war. And a lot of times we're living in total darkness, in some of the darkest places on planet Earth. And as Christians, we're called to shine brightest where it's darkest, to embrace the intersection. And I think one way we can do that all practically is through sponsorship. And our church has been such a big blessing in providing sponsorship for both Honduras and Kenya. And I feel like sponsorship changes not just their lives, but it changes our lives. And it's a way of loving these kids unexpectedly. 2 weeks ago, I got to spend one entire day with the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya. And his name is Brother Jackson, and he leads 9 million Kenyans right now. And the Anglican Church in Kenya is the most vibrant church in Kenya. It's the majority of the country. Just such a blessing. And this man is super influential. He speaks to the United Nations. He disciples the president when they just had an Islamic terrorist attack. He's the one who addressed the nation. He's provided the Bible study to the district attorney's office. Just very influential in that country. And he saw what we were doing in Bungoma, the program we partnered, and said, hey, I want to do this in other parts of Kenya. Well, he told me a story and it blew me away. Because he was the youngest of 11 children in Kenya when his dad was killed right in front of him. So he was orphaned, and his mom was a widow. He had 10 other siblings. Some of them ended up going on the streets and becoming addicted to glue, or just living in gang violence. Some of them went away, he never saw them again. And a few of them, the mom kept close to her, and they were Maasai, and they sent them to a school. And the first day they were turned away because they didn't afford the school supplies or the uniforms. And then someone came knocking on the door and said, hey, there's an organization called World Vision. They want to sponsor your 3 children to go to school. And he became a sponsored child. And then he got access to an education. And then he fell in love with Christ. And he told me in testimony he became a Christian at that school. He came back and led his mom to Christ and his brothers to Christ. He started witnessing and just became this incredible leader. And then 30 years later, he's leading 9 million Kenyans. And I think about the kids that we're sponsoring, or you're going to start sponsoring. What impact are they going to have on their lives around the world? Because that's an example of shining brightest where the world is darkest. So, here's my challenge to all of us. If you're not sponsoring a child, maybe that's what God's calling you to do, and there's information in the back. But if you are already, just continue praying for that child. Keep it front and center. Don't put it in the background. And remind yourself that part of your calling is not just to shine bright in your own life, but to shine bright around the world. Because if other people aren't going to reach out to them, it's the church's job. That's why we exist. We exist for Jacksons who are not just now, but who are there all around the world, needing our help and our love. So, let me close with this thought. In your world, right now, when I close in prayer, I want you to be thinking, who do I need to love unexpectedly? Who is not expecting anything from me? Not expecting a call, a note, an invitation? How can I love that person? And then 2, how can I continue or start shining brightest around the world? Maybe that's through child sponsorship. Father, thank you so much for what you're doing in our lives. And I think back to this invitation you've given all of us to love one another. And how many times I've messed this up, we've messed this up, and as a church, we've really butchered this. But we want to change that. We want to change the perception of Christians, and we want to make sure that everyone around us in our world and around the world knows that love is our distinguishing characteristic. That love is what defines us. Our love for one another, for our brothers here, for the people in our community, and for the people around the world. So as we're going forth now, Father, how can we love unexpectedly? If love does the unexpected, Who in our lives do we need to love? Bring that person to our minds. Whisper to us, how can we love them? Give us the strength we need. Sometimes it's hard because they don't deserve it. It's challenging, they're difficult, and whatever other reason we have, despite all of that, show us how to love that person or that group. And then, Father, thank you for all the children that we're impacting around the world in Honduras and in Kenya. And I just pray that you will continue to bring hope, to bring faith to these kids, to do something incredible in their lives. I pray that some of the kids in our programs would fulfill your purposes and rise up to be leaders in their community, in their country, and that could impact it more than we could even imagine. Thank you for Washington Cathedral. Thank you for this great caring network. It's in your name we pray, Jesus. Amen and amen. I'm going to ask Pastor Jackie to come up and close us. Right?